All right, good morning, everyone. It is Monday, and this is episode 14 of the Duck Chronicles. As you can see, I've moved the babies to their new spot for the morning, and that's what they've left behind. It's probably the case that in another week we'll have to add a couple panels to this thing because they're exceeding the capacity of the land. They're really not, but it's a little more laid down than I'd prefer. And what I really need to do is start moving this thing twice a day. Again, we're probably 3 to 4 weeks from where they're going to be spending most of their days out. In fact, they may be spending most of their days set free to wander a lot sooner than we normally would, because of something I'll show you later in this video. So what I wanted to do today is feed them for you. They haven't been fed yet. They've been given water, which they've pooped up. That water's been in there 10 minutes. I've been asked about water quality, and I'll tell you, with ducks, when you give them water they can swim in, that's what happens. I sold some chickens to a guy recently, and he wanted to know, do I medicate them? And I told him no. And this is a guy from El Salvador. He knows a lot about chickens and grew up on a farm down there. And he was like, these chickens are really strong. They're really healthy. How do you, keep them this way without it? And it's basically, no matter how skanky that water is, it gets changed twice a day. Keeping things clean is important, especially during this stage where guys are confined. But you also have to be reasonable as what you can and you can't do. And if they want to let them have bathing water, they're going to poop it up. So we change that water. That water gets changed 5-6 times a day during this period. Anyway, everybody's going to get scared of the giant here. I just want to show you how I get into this thing. So I take the top tie wrap off. I pull them both out. And then I can step straight through. Excuse the camera angle there for a second. But I can walk straight through even with a camera in my hands. It's not hard. Little girl, you gotta move. Giant's foot's coming. So they are getting less afraid of me. And there's one downside of that. And that is you gotta be a lot more careful you don't step on one. So what do you think, little girl? You want something to eat? So since they haven't eaten since they wiped the feeder out sometime in the middle of the night, I expect you guys will get a pretty good show here of hungry ducklings. I don't think I've ever done this for you before. Excuse the camera again just for a minute until I get all the feeders down. All right. Yep. Everybody's happy. Nothing like good peanut meal and sunflower meal and other good stuff in the morning as the girls. That's breakfast cereal. That's for ducks. That's not for humans. We eat bacon. You guys eat the granola. All right, guys, chill. So, I'm going to actually come back here in just a minute, and I'm going to spend about a half hour with them this morning. There's a good little boy right there. See, that's what I want to do, too. I want to, at times, reach down and touch, but not pick up. Because, again, they don't really like to be held. They don't like to be picked up. Everything I can do to reinforce that when the hand comes, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not going to do nothing to you. Now, one more thing before I go show you what else I wanted to show you today. I've been asked a lot about these feeders. Why are these feeders designed the way that they're designed? And there's two sides to it. One is the length. As you can see, a lot of ducks can eat at the same time. And that just really pushes back competition. If you put a round feeder in and everybody's trying to crowd around it and only maybe 10 ducks can fit around it, you got 50 ducks. You got a competition issue. With multiple small feeders like this, with it spread out linearly, people can eat at their leisure. Ducks can eat at their leisure, and they don't have a lot of a problem. The other thing, though, is they're babies. They're children. And what are children? Children are irresponsible. And they are very irresponsible with their feed. And if you don't have these little holes, what they do is they dig the food out looking for whatever part they particularly like the best. And ducks are bad with this because you can see right now, some of them right now, part of what nasties up their water, what they're doing, they're getting a mouthful of food and then they're going over there and they're getting it all nice and wet and mucky because they like it that way. So those two things combined with ducks, without those holes, they waste 50% of their feed. This way they probably waste 10% of their feed, if that. So it's just a much better feed utilization. And now that these guys have kind of kicked in the second wind on the growth, and we won't be weighing them but maybe once a week. I'll probably weigh 3 or 4. You can see when I'm talking about them getting desensitized to me. So they were terrified of me a week ago. Now they're eating my boot. when they kind of kicked it in here, we moved them in here, they are going through a bag of feed really fast. I think they're going to go through 50 pounds of food probably in 6 to 7 days, almost 10 pounds a day, because they are really starting to put on the weight. Again, I don't want to snatch them up, but I picked one up last night. You can just feel the muscle development that's coming in. Excuse me, guys. But this is now an everyday event. We sit here with the babies. I'm going to come back and finish my coffee, but I wanted to quickly show you why we may be able to let them out. Because honestly, during the day when we're here to keep an eye on them, the biggest threat to them right now is the mature ducks and the mature geese. And speaking of the ducks, they're PO'd at me right now. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning as I'm shooting this, and they're not allowed out till about 8:30. But all they know is they see me, and everybody else is out. The chickens are out. Watch out, little girl, you gotta move. Move, there we go. So, and I always go out with the fence. And as long as you go out, you slide right through. And then I'll replace that tie wrap. I'll do that when I come back so I can end this video for you and not waste your time, guys. I talked about putting fencing in, and this was our weekend project. We had 2 huge red tip bushes here. Pretty useless, and they looked awful because they were planted way too close to the house by the former landowner. And I've left this one stump. We're going to use this as a temporary fence post. The rest of that all has to come out, but my saw needed a new battery, and I didn't feel like jacking with it anymore, so that's good enough for now. That tree will be a post. And we're going to be putting in 3 foot tall horse style fencing. It's not really horse fencing because 3 feet won't keep a horse out, but really high quality stuff. It's pretty freestanding on its own. You can see what we did there. Cinder block. These are driven about 2 inches into the ground. It's about as far as I can go, and then cinder blocked in place. And I just took a line, piece of string, and tied it from where I wanted to go to where I wanted to be. That got us a nice straight line. And you can see, except for the end cinder block, we did only the front side. That's plenty of anchor there. You can see this one here, when I talk about rock, this flat piece, that's supposed to be in the ground if you put it in the ground. It's not in the ground anywhere. But I couldn't even get it, deep enough to get it inside the cinder block. So these were all poured yesterday. And they go over this fence. And on the other side of the property, there's a line about twice as long that does the same thing. It effectively cuts the front yard and like 2/3 of the side yard on that side of the house off. And then that cuts off this. So what we'll be able to do, once we move our ducks and geese, let me get out of the darkness here for you. Once we move the ducks and geese out of this area, with some supervision, maybe we'll give these guys half a day to freely roam in all this deep grass here. And give us a break from the heavy browsers, but our little guys there, even though there's 50 of them, they can only do so much browse, so they're only gonna put so much of a beating. And real quick, I'll show you the long-term plan here. As I talked about this earlier this last week, about how things are being run out here now. We're having a Houdini chicken there. He's not supposed to be there. But the chickens are being housed in that yard back there now. And that's maybe a little less than 1/10 of an acre. And that whole piece is an acre. That 1/10 of an acre where all the birds are right now, that's going to become my research cider orchard. That's all going to be planted to cider apples. These guys are all going to get sold or eaten as we move all the way into nothing but ducks. But those guys in the new ducks are going to move into this great big mansion here. And then what's going to happen is this kind of muddy area is going to be demuddied. We're going to bring in about 20 bales of straw and spread it down here and let the chickens do all the work before they get parted out. That fencing will come down because I don't need to protect those little trees from my ducks. And we're going to run a fence from here to this pole. We're going to put a gate in right here between these 2 poles, and we're going to run a fence from this pole to there, and that's going to give them a great big holding area for nighttime. Access to a great big 12 by 16 shed for shelter. And then they got a whole other acre out here to work. And this should blow up as soon as we stop grazing it and stop running chickens on it, because it's had horse manure. There's a big pile out there put in all winter long by my neighbor. And then what that'll let us do, this is the goose holding area. We'll put a little gate in right there. And what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to open this gate right here and give them that paddock. We'll be able to open that gate right there and give them that paddock. We'll be able to open that gate right there and give them this whole acre here. So one base of operations, 3 paddocks, complete discipline and control of how they graze the land, and we will check in with you guys tomorrow with another video.